Welcome back to Newsmaker Live. I'm Kendall Burton. My guest, Christopher Hunt, the consultant in the Ministry of Creative Industries. Earlier on, you were talking about the establishment of the creative industries, the fact that it's young. And it almost seemed like you were dismissing England, one of the largest creative sectors.
Not so much
in Europe. I know you probably didn't intend to, but it sounded like you were being dismissive. Are we looking at Europe and England more specifically as having one of the largest creative sectors in that area, perhaps to learn some lessons from them, get some sort of technical support, whether for the British High Commission or otherwise?
Definitely. What I was saying was that we need to stop looking outside. Tourism, for example, looks to bring people in.
Right.
We have to look within ourselves and see what's good about us and what we like about our music, our culture, and so on. So, for example, you had Akon taking Africa and Nigeria and branding with songs like Kukere and Peace Squared and these guys to the point where we're bringing them down for jazz, and they've managed to leapfrog some of the Creole or French music that we had that we could have been pushing in modern markets. Now, England is considered to be punching above its weight in terms of the creative industries. We have extrapolated from models that they have. So, for example, in the creative sector, you have the fact that the way that they measure their creative industries is different from Japan. Japan literally will divide their creative sector at every level, so that in the production of a song, they divide it. When it gets to market, they divide the creativity of the DJ that may play the song, the royalties that may be collected. We don't have the ability to do that sort of, to implement that sort of model. So much of us, just like with the rest of the way that we've established our constitution and many of our laws, we have looked to extrapolate from England much of what we are trying to implement. But you also have other countries like Canada, how they manage to determine intellectual property's content. And there are a number of models around the world. Now, what I was saying before about the ministry, McDonald Dixon, economic affairs, and also a great poet and literary giant, also pointed out that in the establishment of creative industries, to do it justice in 1999 would have cost about $20 million. My own document that I sent in before I started this, my assessment, was somewhere in the region of about $15 million. Now, we're starting off with one. The allocation of $1 million means that you really have to be tactical, you really have to be strategic, and you have to find ways of bringing people together to help them amass, when in certain cases it may be an individual that you may need to help. Unlike other sectors where there's no Rihanna of farmers, there's no Michael Bolton of hotels, even if some hotels may do better than others. In the creative sector, whereas you would like to help everybody, you also have to recognize that one person can make the entire sector change. One Marshall Montano, right? One George Benson, one anybody can make that happen. So who knows that Ricky T may be the next Marshall Montano or Michael Jackson. So it means that for us, there's a lot of that we have to remove opinion. And one of the things I know, people have the fear that because of my personal relationships with them, or because I'm in the creative sector and I know them one way or the other, that I may have somewhat of an opinion of them, good or bad, that is how the decisions are made. But first of all, nothing could be further from the truth, because it's my job to help everybody, to find a way to help everybody. And the other thing is that I don't make decisions on my own. I am not head of administration. We come together as a grouping, and believe me, when decisions are made, everybody participates. Now, we are looking at a model which has to develop from the ground up, like England has done. We have to take advantage of our advantages, our scenery, our ability to brand in certain mediums and so on. And we also have to take advantage of who's already out there. There are people like Penn and Big Bad DYP, who, I mean, we cannot even understand the levels that he operates on in terms of the amount of production, collaboration he's doing with 758 Music, but also as a drummer. We also look at people like Charlotte Monrock, who is the editor of Town and Country magazine, who is literally making waves around the world. We already know about Nina Compton, but Nina Compton will be the first to tell you that we haven't scratched the surface of utilizing her in terms of her global potential. So it's for us to do that.
Let's talk closer to you started by wishing the audience happy independence. You outlined your activities for this year's celebration today. One of those that you started last month was the
most patriotic radio competition.
Yeah. How is that going?
Well, I don't want to preempt it because I want to. I want you to judge. I want you to tell me if if the public can see if there's more solution content being played. We started this competition because last year we did the slam competition, and we released press kits of artists, biographies, new music releases coordinated among 10 producers on island as just a start. We got nowhere. What ended up happening was everybody was just playing Trinidad music. DJs were trying to put out what is popular, and basically you have some of the DJs with social networks with some of the people in Trinidad, so that was that. This year we realized that maybe we need to make more of a tactical approach. And just so that anybody knows, we started planning for independence and going out for site visits and everything since about June last year. CAPSEC was on the ball. Right now, the most patriotic radio station is a station that is going to play St. Lucian content without apology, go through all the different genres, irrespective of its format, whether it has to play R&B, hip-hop. We believe there is enough St. Lucian content. I myself have been a DJ and worked on television and radio stations, so I know it's there. We know it's there. I've worked with a number of producers. There's some producers here with over 1,000 mainstream marketable songs. Now, these producers give the songs to the DJs. If they play them, and they also have their access now with the internet to the biographical information, they give out that information. So that, do you know, St. Lucia, that the True Tones performed at the Super Bowl? Do you know Quaver's music? Do you remember Huronora voices? We need to make those things, we need to promulgate these things in the public domain so that people get to understand. Like I said today, Burning Eyes and Hungry Belly is not a Jamaican song. This is, I mean, will Boo, for example, play Show the World? You know, Willie, Song of Love that's been covered by people like Lou Rawls and Roberta Flack that Boo wrote when he was 19 years old and working in the Treasury. These stories need to be retold. Now, we also recognize that most of the radio stations, have a dead period where they are generally off air from midnight to 6 a.m., 5, 6 a.m. So between the time that the on-air presenter goes off air and, for example, Jukwa or whoever comes on air the next day, they put on satellite radio. In this day and age, why not just program St. Lucian music and run that? So I love Remedy. I love the remix with what's his name, Shaggy. But I also recognize that every time that song plays, money is leaving the country. I wish the DJs would understand that it's the equivalent of replacing them with foreign DJs from all over the world to play. But if they play that music, what is going to happen is, and you can always follow up with Steve Etienne and Echo, is that hundreds of thousands of dollars will be leaving the country for the next month or two because of us playing foreign music. Now, we have the slam concert to promote St. Lucian artists, to get St. Lucia to see them. They're all going to be doing either their own material or original St. Lucian material, guaranteed for independence. When they go out and perform that, it would be nice for the people to know their songs. So somebody like Olivia Abraham, who just released Lemonade yesterday, should be able to have a couple of people in the crowd know her songs. So we figured that if we have this competition, and a number of the radio stations have registered, both for the #1 DJ that's basically plays the most St. Lucian content, gives the most biographical information, displays variety, so it's not just power, soca, or groovy, but you get that mix of alternative rock from Claudia Edward, and so on, that you will have that sort of groundswell, and you have that atmosphere built toward independence. I am a firm believer in what the French say, cultural protection is cultural promotion. So if you're not out there promoting it, it's going to die. Barbados promotes an education culture, and that's why they have virtually 100% literacy.
Well, there you go. I was going to ask you about that. Isn't what you were alluding to symptomatic of a deeper issue? What is a lack of national pride, lack of artistic or musical appreciation? Where did your ministry come in terms of working with the Ministry of Education, perhaps, or other agencies, to instill that sort of, or these sort of values, so that we can get that sort of appreciation that you're talking about? Because you talk about the DJs and the fact that we need to tell these stories, but the DJs have to know the stories first of all.
True.
A lot of people on radio don't know anything about music.
Very true, but you also have to recognize the dynamic has changed to the days of Andre Paul or Margaret Robert Steele being a well-rounded journalist that also does radio or television. You now have a number of DJs, because the barriers for entry for the creative industry industries are much lower than, you don't need a university degree to be a DJ. And I'm very happy for all of them who are doing this and plying their trade. But you also recognize that you have varying competencies. You have DJs that may not be able to do public announcements, may not be able to read ads or do news broadcasts. So because of that, we do have that issue. I'm not so much worried about for the children, because now with the power of the internet, I mean, I get people, children posting videos singing teacher and so on to me online and so on. So they get it. The younger generation, the same way they understand a tablet or a smartphone before a 15-year-old or 20-year-old nowadays, is well ahead and very au courant with what's going on. When it comes to us, we need to shift perceptions. So for us with the creative industries, we look at strategic times and approaches of where we can shift perceptions. For example, we wanted to get involved in ASU Square. CDF said, okay, let's work together. We worked together with the Castries City Council, the Royal Civil Police Force, and we made what we believe to be a subtle yet fundamental shift in how ASU Square is displayed now. Simply taking a transcendent venue of the Derek Walcott Square and having people come together. I mean, to see people like the Chamber of Commerce, to see people like the Rotarians, to see people, everybody from Chester Hinkson to Michael Shastney coming to ASU Square. I know ASU Square is something where when I was 14, 15, I would basically go up and down the VG highway in the darkness sometimes or whatever, and to not have any familial connection. So now to take ASU Square to the point where you have children and families coming, where you have people spending time, bonding, going through different genres of music, getting their toes going around Castries and so on, means that we took a festival which many people didn't know, and it was only because of, again, Sir, I call him Sir McDonald Dixon, elaborating on the fact that 150 years ago, people were coming to Castries because there were not enough churches in Babonneau, in Dennery, in Micoud, Ancillary. They were coming to town from the entire Christmas, the 25th, all the way up to New Year's, and they were essentially camping out in La Place d'Armes, which is now the Derek Walcott Square. So that ASU Square has a very rich tradition, which, because it came from the ground and came from the Maliways, right, is not properly documented. But now we have a 150-year-old festival where there were cruise ships in harbor and the cruise ships came in. We had visitors coming in. We had nationals of all generations coming in. In one foul swoop, we have changed the entire perception of ASU Square from a Guinness and weed down market thing where you just want to get it over with and you wouldn't send your child or you wouldn't go, to something that we can brand for the world. And we already have visitors. And we even have an economic impact assessment of that to know what the visitor spend is. I know that the locals, for example, spend 50 EC per. The visitors spent a little bit more. We know how many patrons, we know how many vendors, we know how it went. So we now are looking at a strategic way, because if you think about it, if you remove Carnival, Jazz, Christmas, Je ne sais quoi from the calendar, we just have economic stagnation, because economies run to a very basic extent on people having confidence to go out and spend money. And entertainment-driven economies like Las Vegas in a desert, even recession-proof, can survive these kinds of economic downturns because entertainment changes moods. Music, for example, is one of the natural mind and mood altering things that you can have in your life. And we now can have a model which can drive the economy not only here, but globally.
Now, let's stick to the patriotism competition. I have not been able to listen to much radio since you launched it. Basically, I don't have the time. But I know stations like Radio St. Lucia, for instance. RSL,
Carry FM.
Every Thursday. They have
Real
an entire
FM.
day of music. I know HTS to some extent was doing something similar. I see other stations following suit. Yeah? But we're due for a break. Let's take the break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk some more about that. You're watching Newsmaker Live. We'll be right back.